All right, cool. So I'm Amahyrani Pina.
I'm Yvette Chen.
I'm Hayashi.
And as Cheryl said, our project is titled Saving Memo Towards an Ecologically Valid Test for Working Memory. So have you ever gone to a grocery store and realized that you're referring to your grocery list at almost every other item? So that's actually a working memory problem. Working memory is the temporary storage of information while that information is being used. And typically when working memory is assessed, it's in a lab setting using paper or computerized assessments. And these assessments vary greatly from the way we typically use our memory in day-to-day situations, like when we go grocery shopping. So in this middle picture, you can see that what a paper task looks like. This task is a lot like connecting the dots. And the bottom picture is the same task, but the computerized version. A computerized version of the task basically just adds and subtracts dots for the participant based on like their performance. So if they're performing poorly, there's less dots. If they're doing really well, there's more. And that typically goes the same for all computerized assessments of any assessment. So these tasks are very important and provide valuable quantitative data, but the way we would naturally use our memory in day-to-day life is really different. And that's where we get inspiration from occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is aimed to improve patients' quality of life by improving independence and functionality in day-to-day life. So in the top picture, we see an example of occupational therapy where the patient is in a simulated grocery store and simulating buying groceries and trying to remember what's on their list. So the amount of items the participant remembers is a marker for that specific patient's cognitive status. And so this type of therapy uses these real world situations, but provides qualitative data relevant only really to that one patient. So that makes a gap between assessing working memory in the sense that there's no valid, reliable, available tests that provide estimates of working memory and contain the freedom of choice that we have in normal settings. And that brings us to the question, how can we best bridge this gap between occupational therapy and the sensitive measurements of computerized assessments? So we hope that a more naturalistic approach, in the sense that players would get to choose how much they remember, would be a better predictor of how people use their working memory. So the app we have developed allows for that freedom of choice, allowing people to choose how many things they'll be remembering.
So now we'll briefly go over the app that we've made and show you some of the tasks that are in it. So again, what we're trying to attempt to do with Saving Memo is to improve and assess the player's working memory using the game and its various tasks. So to evaluate whether Saving Memo is accomplishing this, stage 1 of our project is to test whether we can get reliable measures of working memory when people have that choice. In later stages of the project, we'll address the extent to which the tests better predict people's working memory complaints in real-world situations. So our game concept is that the player, who is the main character, lives in a small town where everyone helps everyone out. So there are no set jobs. People just go where they're needed. The main character, or the player, has a cat named Memo who they have to take care of. And so to do this, the main character has to complete odd jobs around the town. Memo comes from the word memory, so we are saving the cat by feeding and caring for it, while also hopefully saving our memory with cognitive training. So each building other than our house pertains to a different job that the player can decide to do for the day.
So we have 4 tasks in the app. The first task is a data entry task. In this task, participant looks at the sequence of 15 to 20 digits, one number at a time. Then the participant types in the number they just saw. If they forget some digit, they can press the replay button to look at the whole number sequence again. This way, participants can choose how many digits they want to remember because they get to replay the number sequence if they forget. The next task is a supermarket task. In this task, the participant is told that they are going to grocery shopping. They are given 10 seconds to review a randomized shopping list with list of food items. Then the participant goes through 4 different sections: fruits and vegetables, bread and grains, dairy, and protein. and tap on the food item to buy the food item according to the list. If they forget the shopping list, they are allowed to review the list again and go through the shopping sections. This way, just like the data entry task, participants are able to choose how many items to memorize at a time. And this system encourages the participant to try their best because they have to wait for 10 seconds every time they look at the list. The next task is post office task. In this task, the participant is told that they are working at the post office. The goal of this task is to sort the packages into the bin according to the specified symbols given after the participant records the color on the package. So here, we also use concept of choice. The participants get to stop the conveyor belt on the bottom at any time, meaning they get to choose how many symbols to remember at a time. And this system encourages the participant to memorize more because after each stop, they have to wait for 5 seconds until the machine warms up. The last task is Memo's meals. In this task, participant is taking order for the restaurant. Orders come in one at a time, and participants are expected to memorize them as they wait food to come out from the kitchen. The goal is to sort the food items in the correct bag while handling as many orders as the participant feels like they can handle. And in this game, we also use concept of choice because participants can choose how many orders to have at once. They also have ability to cancel the orders if they feel like they have accepted too many orders. And this system encourages the participant to try their best because money is deducted from their tip if they make too many mistakes or if they cancel too many orders.
So now with these newly developed tasks, our next steps are towards validating them. So to make sure our tasks are measuring what we want them to and to receive feedback on gameplay, we conducted a pilot study. So our pilot testing had 20 participants, 6 male and 14 female, and they were undergrad research assistants from the UCR Brain Game Center. And participants had no prior experience or knowledge of saving Memo. So in session 1, they would play all 4 tasks in saving Memo, and then it was followed by a feedback survey. And then for session 2, they played 5 tasks from Recollect, which is an app previously validated by the Brain Game Center and has been in numerous studies, and that was also followed by another feedback survey. So here are the results from where we reviewed the data in the surveys. Part of the survey asked participants to rate their enjoyment of the app, and we found that most people on average had a higher enjoyment of saving Memo tasks compared to Recollect or other computerized assessments. And when comparing only saving Memo tasks, the data entry task is the least enjoyable and also the most difficult, while Memo's meals and the supermarket were considered the most enjoyable, and we theorized that the presence of colorful art helps keep the participants engaged. In further versions of the app, we'll be working to make these tasks even more enjoyable.
So looking more into our data analysis, so far not much has been correlated, which is expected since we're creating these tasks from scratch and everything's kind of experimental. The correlations we have found so far, the more important ones are highlighted in that light brownish color, suggest that the number of correct numbers of participant inputs after playing the sequence in the data entry task has some relation to the participant's simple Corsi score. And it also suggests that the overall performance in the participant has in a supermarket task does compare to the performance in the letter numbered task, which is closer to what we wanted. And lastly, our findings also suggest that the amount of participant misses in the cancellation task is comparable to the amount of incorrect answers they have in the Memo's meals task. So because of these results, we plan on conducting a more thorough analysis of our current variables in saving Memo. We've added tutorials since we found that maybe confusion between the tasks may have contributed to some of the conflicting data we've collected so far. Future versions of the study include the application of a pre-post test model, answering whether the addition of caring for Memo, the cat, adds any sort of pressure for the participants to further try their best, and then testing against different populations to see if the results are as universal as we want them to be, or if the app needs more features to allow for adaptability based on population. And that's our presentation.